my initial reaction is that um, no pacers to me does. I like that as a challenge for me at least, but that's because I'm always thinking about this through the lens of middle to the back of the packer who yeah, I want to go out and perform well. My ambition more than ever is about performance right now, more than it ever has been. When I think about a 100 miler, I want to get a sub 24 hour. Like I want to go do a 50K still and get a sub 630. I've never gotten a sub 630 50K. So I'm in that performance realm. But to me, I'm just very uncomfortable in the night, the dark, alone, especially in America when we're starting at 6 a.m. So by the time it's night, if I haven't had my hyperlight, if I haven't really dug in and really my sodium isn't in a good place, and sometimes it's not, like I'm hallucinating and it's not very magical and I don't love it. So I like the pacer from the standpoint of safety. My wife calls me a safety cadet. I think about safety a lot, maybe too much. So my initial reaction is I love that as a goal for myself. But then I also I think it's squarely a crutch for me. I don't know what else to call it other than pacers feel like crutches, and crutches are great things. They're good. They're not always bad, but I think of it as that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm going to probably say I'm indefinitely against this concept. I think crews are part of the sport. I guess they always have been for one reason or another. And the way I see crews evolving is only becoming more critical to the elites. Like you're seeing the aid station transition and everything become so clean and crisp, right? Well, part of the crew is the pacer, So I think having that pacer there is just an added differentiating piece for different elites. You can be more intentional with your pacers. You know what I mean? It's part of strategizing. It's definitely a competitive edge. You hear these guys all the time talk about how, it's just a mental boost for them, as they come in and grab a pacer. And if you choose that you think you truly are better off without one, then you have the option to go without. But then you can't sit there and say, well, then I want everybody to adapt my mindset, right? Like I don't know where Jim's going with that other than, trying to be maybe a little bit tongue in cheek. And I think the only time I would be against pacers is when access is limited because of pacers. And then there's a conversation to maybe be had if, maybe going pacerless increases the field size. But the last part on this one to make is just it highlights the need for us to separate the elite field from the amateur. Again, I don't think that the sport's going to fully professionalize or realize its best professional landscape so long as we keep having the biggest races compete together and try and apply rules for the elites and the 95. They should be able to compete, with rules that are different than you and I.
Yeah, I like that. I completely agree with that. I have no problems
Right.
with that at all. I think maybe an assumption. I made an assumption that maybe everyone knows something that maybe they don't. In Europe, you don't get a pacer. There's no culture of pacing over here. So where the Americans, we're talking stereotypes and lighthearted. Americans make fun of Europeans for the what did Versteeg call them, and I think even Mikey Kratzer said this. I think European cheater sticks. Well, it wasn't Mikey. I don't want to put that in his mouth, but the idea of using poles that's thought of as a crutch. And then the other direction is Europeans making fun of Americans in that culture. Again, tongue in cheek is having the pacer. So UTMB doesn't allow pacers. I think Jim was probably coming from his UTMB brain. He's got a Western States brain, a UTMB brain. Wildly different cultures. And so I think in that UTMB world, yeah, you would never have a pacer. But I also think the advantage of the UTMB is the 6 p.m. start time. So you're hitting the trail in the dark. I think that's super critical rather than landing in the dark at mile, on a big race like that or a hard rock race, hitting the dark at mile, 70, 80, 90. Like then I think that's just different. So I just wanted to clear that up. I just like the idea of saying, yeah, elites get to have their own rules and unique to
Right.
make the competition better. I like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's, it's becoming a point where like every elite has access to elite crew and pacing now. Most elites now, as they've become on the scene, like they've got support with fellow elites, with the shoe brand that's contracting them. A lot of hydration companies are now coming into the fold and playing a critical role on race day. So
Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to crew pacing, I think it's equal opportunity now. Everybody's got access to crowdsource or pull in professional, contacts to make sure they've got the same level of support. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a thing where you're creating an uneven or unparalleled playing field where some elites just have a better advantage because of who they are.
Yeah, I think one interesting thing is that when you see an elite runner, when I was watching Caleb Olson late in Western States, moving down like what felt like a fire road, a wide road, Western States, it's hard to get a feel. And Anthony Costellas is running beside him. It's hard to get a feel for truly how fast they're running. Like you can't. There's nothing because they're both running the same speed. It doesn't. Is he running fast? Is he put at 8-minute miles? At 6? Is that 12? Well, when you see any of them go into an aid station, to me, that's the best. Like for me, I'm always thinking I've got a friend who does baseball content, hits baseball bat bros, Will Taylor, hit home runs. That's an easy snapshot of how hard baseball is. Like you can see like a home run, that ball's going really far. That's really hard to do. And it's like you get it in a second. I feel like the closest thing we have in trail running right now to seeing how special the elites are is what happens in the aid station. Like I can wrap when I see anyone running into Western States and it's like a 5-second turnaround and there's 3 people, 6 people doing something. To me, that's the most obvious, like short content to say, wow, these guys, if it's not obvious anywhere else, it's obvious right now how special and how unique and how gifted this whole their experience is compared to even the 95. So like we're talking top 5% on that. So to me, that aid station, that whole experience is a differentiator.
Yeah. Well, you just have to have a little bit of contrast. Like when everybody around the elite racer is running fast, it running's a hard spectator sport. Like you watch the road marathoning and the 206 pack looks like they're running slow.
Yeah.
All we need to do is have a guy like you or me running down Cal Street with them, and it'll quickly be obvious how fast that they're running, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, they're gapping that guy.
I am a fan. I don't know who said this. I've heard it somewhere, but every Olympic sport during the opening trials of it, you should have an average man running against Noah Lyles, an average man, just so you can see, just like, hey, here's a quick snapshot. Look at this. This guy's like my resting heart rate's in the 50s. Like that's really good. Now put me up against one of these guys, and then you think, oh, that's how fast Caleb is. That's what Jim's doing. That's what Courtney can do. Like, wow. I like that.
That's fun.
All right. You want to hear from old Tommy Lewis, our dude who just wrapped up Devil's Gulch?
Oh, yeah. Handsome Rob. Let's get him on.
Hi, lads. Tommy here. Actually just lying on my hotel room bed after Devil's Gulch, which I managed to not DNF, which is good. Big fan especially of your latest Bad Runners Take. Really good episode. I wanted to just chime in as if I was in the room on your chat about Western States, but also Hardrock. It just occurs to me that both Hardrock and Western States are kind of just using convenient shields to excuse themselves from the responsibilities that we know they have as world-class top events, like calling it not a race and just a run, or just leaning on annoying, poetic, nostalgic language like mission, legacy, ethos, all that stuff. It's just annoying to me. They need to give real answers and act like what they are, in my opinion.
All right, Tommy, I like it. And here's what I like about the comment. First off, regardless of the content of the comment, it's someone who's not ingrained or entrenched in the American ultra running scene. And so, whether that comment rubs you the wrong way or it doesn't, the first thing I'd say as an American entrenched in it is like, well, that's interesting. What do other people see when they look over here and they hear about our sacred races, our special, our heritage, our legacy races? So I think, we got to listen to that on some levels and at least contemplate it before we wholeheartedly disregard it. I've got to think about that for a second. Do you have anything from the hip?
Yeah, I mean, I think that perspective is something that if I'm on the board, for Western States, or I'm Dale at Hardrock, I should be curious enough or humble enough to receive that and give it some critical thought.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that those types of comments, really ever ping the radar or seem to be considered with any seriousness, again, because it comes back to the rigidity of both of these events, really, like he says, digging their heels into and embracing and almost celebrating to a fault at times, this sort of legacy of this is who we are and we're owning it, to almost an insulting degree of restriction of access. And I think that's kind of the spirit, maybe, where if I were to think where Tommy's coming from with his mindset is just restricting the access and, not looking to evolve and move forward to create, again, more opportunity for everyone.
Yeah. And then, so then I'm trying to think where my mind is going is, all right, then how am I perceiving some of the great European races from over here? And I don't know if this is the average American or if this is just unique to me, but then the reason I take Tommy more seriously is because I'm looking over there and thinking, hey, all I want to do is be a part of UTMB. UTMB has 10,000 people there throughout the week and 10,000 runners across all events and 30,000 spectators. I look over there and think, my goodness, I have a chance at that. I could run that. And I feel like if it goes the other way, it's like Americans are being elitist. They're being restrictive. They're being guarded. They're not welcoming the world in. Now, UTMB is far from perfect. I think Carl Meltzer nailed it when he said that they kind of can't get out of their way sometimes, like with their focus on climate and with their upcharge on people who travel to their events, even though you have to travel to like 7 events in order to even get into the main event. And so there's problems. I'm not saying there's not, but then when I hear Tommy say, yeah, that language gets old, it doesn't scale. And if America is a bastion, is an outpost of ultra running, it's got to be more inclusive. It's got to be more welcoming. And our greatest events, our most notable events, are hiding behind language of heritage, sacredness, all of that. And it's just, it's too exclusive for scale. And a lot of us want to see this sport blow up. And, we went after this ad nauseum, in the States debates. We want more, we want bigger, we want better, all of that.
Yeah, I guess just the last point to land on with this is just like I get the idea behind not wanting to become what UTMB is today, but it didn't become what UTMB is today overnight or with its first edition. Like it's scaled to that level of participation. And if we're saying like we don't want Western States to become UTMB in size, okay, that's fine. We will have plenty of years of scaling upwards to kind of know maybe where the balance is at for access and being a good steward and ambassador of the wilderness and the land management, right?
Yeah.
Like to say like we can't go one step further with progress because we'll become UTMB is just silly, right? Like we will have plenty of opportunities to stop and reassess as scaling moves forward. But I think there's just many of us now that are saying like, just get a little bit more each year. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Totally. All right. That's it for the voices. We're going to move on to the written comments. That's 786-667-3649. Hyperlight hotline. Call us on the Hyperlight hotline. I tell you, we love
better
it.
Every time.
If you just want to make our day, call that hotline. We love getting those calls. We love chatting about them. All right. Moving into written comments. There are so many written comments, and recent episodes did get a bit charged. And so here's the thing. I'm going to read a comment. We'll chat about it for a minute. Wolfie's got some. He doesn't know what I grabbed. I don't know what he grabbed. We might have some crossover, but I've got enough in case that happens. Okay. Hans Troyer, 10 minutes with the kid himself. This was a comment by James on that episode. It said, amazing. Watch the doc after this, and it was great. It'd be great to hear a podcast dedicated to the best running documentaries out there, your top 5, top 10, etc. Great work, amazing content. Now, it's not hard for me to turn off my brain. I read the comment and thought, I don't want to think about it, but I do think it'd be cool to think about it in real time. If you were to say 2, 3, like right now, watch them, like what comes to mind, like visceral, from the gut, what do you think everyone should watch?
Western Time. So with Billy Yang, that's what got me into, I think, ultra trail running and Western States. Billy Yang, UTMB, just the epic intro music, it's just outstanding. And then it's fun to go back and see these. it makes you feel old again. You get to, it's viewer beware, because you get to see these guys, and they're so young, and it's so old now. And then what else would I say? I mean, those were the two that really I've probably watched multiple times.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that kind of stick to the top of my head. And I think what I'm realizing is it's kind of hard for something. It's kind of hard for something when you're 10 years into a sport to really crystallize into your mind. Like, I've watched plenty of other documentaries that have been outstanding.
Yeah.
But I feel like the ones I first watched when I got into it, like, have really just woven into my heart, and so that they're
totally
part of me.
Yeah.
And I still watch great documentaries now, but like, I kind of flush them out a little bit more, and it's, I wish it wasn't like that.
Yeah. For me, it's Hawks versus Miller. Because I think when I saw that, I shared it immediately with as many people as possible. Just like, man, check out Zach at the end.
Listen to him. A documentary, though? That's just like a piece of content.
Yeah. 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 Good question.
Yeah.
What piece of content moved me? I don't know. It was a low quality documentary because it did move you through the race.
Right.
I guess you have to then think through the definition of documentary. You're right. That was just like a long form content of some kind. But in the end, probably the most shared thing that I was sending that out to, hey, everybody, check this out. The why. I felt the why when Billy Yang did the why, that one was critical for like trying to get my dad to understand what I'm into, trying to get anybody who's like, hey, what are you getting into this sport? Or, when he released that, I feel like that was able.
That was Leadville?
That was Leadville. Yeah. Interesting that it's Leadville. I think, we've had some episodes about that, that Leadville has kind of gone into its own unique lane that's not loved by all the legacy people, including some of the people maybe that were even in that.
And that was Billy turning the camera on him, correct?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. That's right. And the insight into why, the look at him, being able to do it. It was also at that documentary where I always thought, Billy positioned himself, I feel like, in language as back of the pack, but in actual time, he's squarely in the mid pack. That he did a great job. I think he was, just north of 24 hours, maybe. Don't quote me on it, but he was fast. I was impressed.
Yeah.
So those would probably be my two, but yeah, the UTMB, the Nike boys, as Billy Yang called it, that one was also critical. So yeah, you can see we're all guys. I mean, we came into the sport around the time Billy Yang was doing it. Of course, Unbreakable. There's no comparison to Unbreakable for me either. But there's so many new ones that are good. I get it, but it's just like when you love music. I remember the first CD I ever purchased, Nirvana Unplugged in New York. I don't remember the 8th or 9th. I don't remember what I had to eat September of 96, but I had to eat. I don't remember every doc I've seen. Drew Darby has obviously been crushing it of late. And The Kid by Hans Short. There's so many good things. But as far as the ones that moved me, like, are the ones that were at the beginning of my ultra running life.
Yeah.
All right,
totally.
Your turn.
Your comment. All right. So this one, to kick it off, just because we were kind of, I think this one goes right in lane with what Tommy's comments were.
Okay.
So at J Sizz comes in with, if you originally learned about and got hyped for this sport through print magazines versus current digital and social media, I think you would find Hard Rock captured the imagination far more than Western States. That kind of mythical status is hard to shake, even if it was always a bit idealized. These days, Western States is far more hyped, but 10 to 15 years ago, those magazine photos and articles covering Hard Rock were far more captivating and intriguing to me. So I'm just going to paraphrase here. Basically, Western States captures his attention, like on YouTube and other pieces of content, but it doesn't really stimulate his imagination. And huge mountains, altitude, serious weather, all those things get his imagination going. And so it's kind of this thing of contrasting attention versus imagination. I thought that was actually probably some of the best context around, why Hard Rock resonates today and who it captures, and kind of contrasting it to what Western States has become as well.
Great comment. I'm glad you pulled that one up. I didn't, but I did like that comment a lot because I thought, oh yeah, that's true. And then I started to think, just imagine, just like put yourself in those shoes. We were, adults when phones were introduced, and like crappy phones, like texting, like 9-key texting and all that sort of stuff. I was on a walk with my kids this week. We were going swimming here, and I didn't want to take my phone. And so my wife stayed behind with another kid. I took 2 kids. We went swimming. we were on our way. My oldest son was like, "Hey, let's go do something else." I was like, "Well, we told Mom I'd be home at 3:30 and I don't have my phone." And he's like, "Oh." It's like, "Yeah, before phones, we were able to be non-committal. Like, I mean, since phones, we can be non-committal. We can change plans on a whim. But when I was a kid, you say you'd be home at 3:30, you got to be home at 3:30. There's no, even if you had found a payphone, then you're reliant on your parents to be near the phone, and they're not going to be slaves to the landline at their house." And my point is that life before the devices in our hands was a very different life. Can you imagine reading about hard rock,
Right.
before we could see it on our phone? Just reading it, like I think about the stories I hear of Hal Kerner early on, like how you find out about a race, or they'd be waiting for a magazine to come out to see who won a race. Like, think about that. You're waiting a month to see who are the top 10 of Western states. And this isn't the 1800s. This is the early 2000s, the late 90s.
Right.
And so I think in that environment, to me, I get it. This guy, I love his comment. Hard rock is the winner to me in that environment. Very cool comment.
Yeah. Yeah. The analogy I came up with was kind of like Western States is the music video now. It's like what MTV did to music.
Video killed the radio star.
100%, exactly where I was going with it. And I feel like hard rock, because everything has to like, go through this narrative of elite competition and depth of field, and you have all these narratives that are baked into the sport now, and live streaming and everything else. And so, yeah, it feels like Western States is the perfect race for this new music video era that we're in now. And hard rock, we kind of forget, I guess, there was a time where that wasn't the competing narrative.
Yeah. Great comment. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. This was on a Bad Runners take when we called Max Trail Earnhardt. We talked about BPN's backyard. It says, my take on this is from LS Cooper. My take on some of the tops dropping or not running states is that they don't want to deal with a camera in their face every step. I picked this comment because I thought, hey, this is just a great little snapshot of where the sport's at. I was actually watching Tour de France and a marquee. I don't know the names that well, but I like watching the 30-minute recaps on YouTube. And a marquee runner was about to abandon, and as he did, he was telling the cameras to get out of their face. And I love the announcer was just like, hey, wrong sport, man. You want the cameras out of your face? Then don't take the $1 million contract. Like, I know that we're not getting that in trail, but we're not there anymore. You need the cameras in your face. If you want the bigger contracts, you want the prize money, the trade-off is the camera in your face. So if an elite runner is picking a race because of the number of cameras involved, that runner is not going to have as great of a contract as the one, like I think of a Hans Troyer, the great entertainers that we've talked about who get in front of that camera and, they flip it on and, they're great content to watch. I think of a Courtney Delwalter, obviously very similar, the big smile, always happy to see you. So I just picked the comment because I thought, hey, it's a good snapshot of where the sport is. If you want the camera in your face, wrong sport.
Right. Yeah, it's always dangerous too when we try and project our beliefs on what we think some others are going to want for themselves as well. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think the way that the sport's going, it's like we need to start giving the pros the carrots, for taking the stick sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're going to put the camera in their face, give them prize money. So I get where, like, in this landscape, we're trying to pile on and layer on all of these things that are a bit obtrusive, and we're trying to put the goldfish in the fish tank and watch them swim, but we're not giving them any benefits for that. You know what I mean? And so it just comes back to the same drum that I'm always beating, like, put up or shut up with the prize money. But it's a bit lopsided right now, and piling on different professional aspects that benefit us as the spectator, but not benefit the professional.
Yeah. Hey, one thing I want to just throw out here for anyone paying attention, anywhere you leave comments, it can be Instagram, it could be on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, does the thought of a crowdsourced prize purse excite you? We've talked about it a few times, but I'm talking about at any level. I'm thinking about my race in Salt Lake City, wanting to get that prize money up there. I think about crowdsourcing, but is it the RD's responsibility? Is it getting a good sponsor? I'm curious if, for those of you who are on the wagon with us here, going toward championing prize money, if it's a crowdsourced prize purse, is that interesting to you, or is that pure activism to you of like making a statement. We've talked about that some in the past, but I am interested from a crowd standpoint if that's a motivating thing to see that athlete win that race and that it's crowdsourced instead of RD sourced.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious too. It's fascinating. It can go either way. Like, do you feel like you're more part of that elite runner's success? Like, does it make you feel proud and and honored to have contributed to their prize pool, or do you feel like it's just the sport's already expensive enough, like to go out and try and bleed the 95 of an extra
Right.
$10 to $100 contribution is just,
that's right.
It's getting annoying now. So
yeah, great question.
See both sides of the fence. Let us know where you lie.
Yeah. So then to put a bow on that is we connected that to prize money because you want the camera, the camera's going to be in your face. You get more money because that means that the sport's monetizing, it's growing in that way. So, all right, you're up.
All right. So yeah, this one looks like want to always give credit. So Laura Bellman, 7682 comes in with, I don't know why you keep pushing the dirtbag angle. Most ultra runners are not dirtbags or only fake dirtbag on the weekend. Dan Green is not a dirtbag. Max may look like he has the vibe, but really he's on his way to affluence. That's a pointed one. That's a pointed one.
Shout out to Laura. She comments a lot.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
I love these. Great stuff. Don't mince words. Don't mince words. Yeah. Don't always polish off the sharp critiques. I like it. It's a very wolfy thing to do, to just come in with the fangs out. So I like it.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, just to kick it off, I think my initial response during the comments, was that, I mean, I guess dirtbagging is quite, subjective. Like, we all kind of layer on our own, expectations of what it means when we use that in a colloquial way.
Yeah.
And when you think back to even just like the Western States board and, some of the legacy of these early pioneers of the sport, they always celebrate that, like, they're doctors, they're lawyers, you know what I mean? Like, they come from a very affluent place as well, but they don't identify with who their career is on the clock. And so the minute they get a free time to go express themselves, they let their inner dirtbag, their inner freak fly, right? Like, so, are you trying to say that we are who our jobs and careers are? I don't like the way that goes. That's a lane that I don't think is true. I think who you are when you choose to spend your free time, is kind of more reflective of your authenticity. So
yeah,
I'll let you get going with it, and we'll go back and forth on this one, I'm sure, for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I think of myself as a dirtbag when it comes to running, and yeah, it requires definition because no, I'm not living in a van. I'm not, the core. I was reading about it the other day, and it's escaping me where the origin of the term dirtbag. But I think of dirtbag runners as everything is utilitarian. All I'm trying to do is get to a trail to start running, and everything that I choose to engage with along the way gets me to there. And then once I'm there, my whole thing is I just want to run as long as I possibly can. Now the dirtbag could, like true dirtbags, have nothing. They don't, maybe they don't have partners, maybe they don't have kids, maybe they truly do live in their van, and they can just run until they choose to stop. Big weekends. I'm far from that. I live in an apartment right now in Copenhagen, just for the summer. I have 30 minutes, 45 minutes a day. But where I resonate with the dirtbag ethos is get me to a place to run as fast as possible. It's why my nutrition sucks historically in races, is because I think, gosh, I just want to be running, gotta get running. And so then I make really dumb mistakes. It's like, okay, I'm not going to bring a rain jacket, even though it's supposed to rain today, because I just need to be running. And that, to me, I think, so is Dan that? Dan feels like that ethos that I have described, but I think the problem could be is are there other terms for what I've just described? Or, because Dan works at Roberts Running, and he has for a long time, and his whole thing, in his own words, is that kid just wants to run. And so I feel like that connection to strong desire, everything exists to get me to a trailhead. That to me is dirtbag running.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a Gen Z dirtbag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess, like you show your age, I guess, when you're thinking about dirtbag in a certain way. She makes valid points. She's talking about like how a brand like Satisfy, it's hundred whatever dollars to get into a Moth Tech t-shirt, and she's saying that's completely against, dirt bagging. But then again, it's like, is Michael Versteeg not a dirtbag?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's, I think, clearly somebody that we would all say is in spirit a dirtbag. I think.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, so again, it's just kind of this. Maybe it's just where the sport's at, where there's more critique around the term now, less. But again, I don't want to tie it to affluence. Like, affluent. And yeah, like you said, being able to provide for yourself, for your family, those types of things shouldn't exclude you, from being able to still identify with and live a life that's authentic to a dirtbag.
Yeah. Versteeg is a great person to have this discussion around, because it's the same thing with Max. It's this vibe, it's this look, this sort of greaser, like outsiders vibe combined with Satisfy. So you've got this high price point gear. And so some people say, well, those things are at odds with one another. But if you talk to Versteeg about it, which I had the luxury of doing for a podcast before, like he and I were somewhat on the same page, so it wasn't as controversial as say when he's been at other places. It's that, yeah, if you're looking overall, like at your overall, like if you're spending $200 on shorts, but you're only buying shorts every 10 years or every 5 years, or every 3 years, assuming the shorts last that long, then you're paying less per run than the person who buys the Target shorts every year, like I used to. I was getting a pair of Target
and
shorts.
And quick plug, like they do last. I have Satisfy shorts that are like 6 years old, and they're still my favorite shorts to run in. So they do last, they do hold up, and so, yeah. And this just came to me too, is like, maybe dirtbags are evolving and we should celebrate that. Like they're becoming Renaissance men. Like, Versteeg is a writer, he's a rock climber, he's definitely a father now. Is he married? He's got a significant other, whatever the case is there, right? Like, so maybe maybe in this culture now, in this time, these men who would have been simple dirtbags are just becoming more sophisticated dirtbags with more interest. They're contributing in more ways than just living in a van down by the river and running. And I think that's a good thing, So I guess not to belabor the point anymore. I think we're landing on maybe some agreement, still some disagreement with her, but I think maybe just dirtbags are evolving, and that's a good thing.
And I think it's because the original dirtbag, like a Hal Kerner or a Scott Jurek, they were dirtbags. I think they could go win the race. A Hal Kerner or Scott Jurek could not even get in the top 10% right now. You've got to be dialed, super focused. Now, if Scott and Hal were surrounded by the same thing that all these young guns are surrounded by, they could adapt. I'm not saying they couldn't, but I'm saying live the life the way that you did back then. An 18-hour finish at Western States, you're not even getting on the Borderlands, 10 minutes with, we're not going to do 10 minutes with Scott Jurek if he's only in 18 hours, So dirtbag lifestyle is no longer conducive to like success in the sport. That's only about joy. And so if someone's out having a good time living that classic dirtbag lifestyle, good for them. They're just not newsworthy anymore.
Right.
Okay. My turn?
Yep.
All right. The Outrider idea is so cool. I'm not able to join this time, but would love to in the future. You're definitely onto something with this. I think we're onto something with this too. Entrepreneurially, like we're giving this a go. I personally want to do something like this. So I think that's fun. So I appreciate someone just calling it out in the comments. I hope everybody who's interested would join us. If price is an issue, let us know. Like when you price things out, you don't always nail it. Are we too expensive? We did a ton of, more than I've ever done in terms of market feel, in terms of what the price of this would be that people would be willing to pay, because we've had a lot of interest. Is the season too long? Is it too short? We've got it at 10 weeks. Is that too big of a commitment? I think once we're in it and you see content coming out of it, I think we're going to have major FOMO on this, because it's going to be so much fun to be out there going for it. So not much to say other than that.
Yeah, I agree. So, this one was, definitely got to unpack this one, because it just happened at Hard Rock. Okay. What is this one here? Lisa Tamura, I hope I'm getting that right, 9164 chimed in. I think what was missing from your conversation, and this is regarding the just to give it context, the Here for the Women's shirt
Okay.
debacle at
Yeah.
Hard Rock. I think what was missing from your conversation was a real honest take about the real issue of how this made women feel. I assumed he made the shirt as a joke, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make me feel less welcome in the trail space. There's a lot of history tied up here too. Men erasing, literally with tape, right? She made a laughy emoji, right?
Yeah.
Women's presence has more emotional heft because of history. That's a loaded one, dude. So
It is. Yeah. Thanks for pulling that one out. You want me to go first?
no, I can chime in.
Okay.
So I'll concede complete ignorance to this one in a sincere way, and let me
Yes.
explain that. I never gave any sort of uh, not credibility, but I never even gave any sort of like awareness in my mind that there was a population of women who have felt men as a collective within trail running, ultra running in the United States have tried to erase women's presence. And so, again, I would love to be able to get more into a back and forth conversation with Lisa, but if there are women out there who have felt like this sport, as at its genesis, was trying to erase women, whether it was, directly or indirectly, I mean, I'm curious. Let me know, like, what's the history of the sport that I'm missing on? What should I carry forward with information so I can be a little bit more, empathetic or, champion certain things. But
100%.
that just really struck me to my core of like, wow, I didn't realize that, there were women who felt this way specifically within trail running, not culturally or socially outside of trail running, but just within the sport.
Yeah. I think that's a great take on it. Yeah. I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, you're right. I did not make any attempt to offer any commentary on how women felt about this. So far from my scope of understanding, but also there's a core belief I have here in that one woman's experience with that, I don't believe is all women's experience with that. And so my thinking is this woman who's nice enough to leave the comment. Did you say her name was Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa. Lisa's going to have one certain experience, and I think she just vocalized it. And if she feels that way, like Lisa, if there's anything that I can do, but I think I felt like it would have hurt our episode and our credibility if I had then tried to speak on behalf of women or what I believe women felt. In general, I'm more of an individualist. So if it ups, so someone chimed in and said, can you imagine Hillary Yang was out there running it? Can you imagine what would have happened when she saw the shirt? And I thought we could ask her. I mean, we could just ask her rather than either be offended for her or posture, what we think her take was. And so I think there's a ton of individual responses out there. But if there's anything that we can be doing, I mean, I think, I want to be able to do it. I just feel like the worst thing I could have done was try and speak on behalf of anybody. That's the worst thing you can do, is to speak on behalf of somebody. I think if we want to hear from them, and if you were using Borderlands to get your entire scope of this story or any story, I would also say that you should do a better job of widening your scope of information gathering. We weren't trying to be the entirety of the source. We were trying to bring our limited scope of it. So there's lots of great other sources out there, lots of other takes on it. Not just this topic, every topic. I think this topic served as a microcosm of something larger happening within trail and news gathering and news dispensation that we were just using it to address.
Yeah. And you bring up an interesting point, right? Like that there was that great, I think, comment in the same video that where someone was curious, like, or made the comment, on behalf of Hillary, who was out there running. And I've had multiple conversations with people who were there at Hard Rock that are part of this, Hard Rock community, which is a very tight, group of people. There's not a lot of people out there. This guy's well known. Like, he has a reputation. I'm basically getting the idea that Hillary, Billy, a lot of the elites, he clearly was on Zach's crew, know this guy, and that he's got a bit of a character, he's a bit of a clown, class clown, maybe a guy who just never grew up and is capable of doing things like this full well knowing the attention it was going to get, right? And so
Yeah.
I think the response on the on race day and that whole week was kind of just dismissive, right? Like an eye roll, basically. You
Yeah.
know, don't give much attention to it because that's what clearly this individual wanted, and so those that know this person just kind of dismissed it. You know, I think, not speaking for or on behalf of Hillary or Billy, but like, yeah, I think it didn't carry any sort of major response from them because they were closer to the individual than any of us were.
Right.
I think why things kind of got a bit controversial is that, like you said, this was a microcosm. People projected their biggest boogeyman onto this person. You know, they projected their biggest oppressor, you know, the biggest villain that they could onto this person, and then use this situation to highlight, I think, things that are at a bigger issue on a social level. So
Yeah, and I think on some
but
levels, to be honest, from where I'm at, is there was a dipping of my toe in this water to say, can we address the bigger issue or not, and what's that going to be like if we do? What I would hope is that we've earned with our core audience, that we've earned the ability to get our foot stuck in our mouth and try and get it out if need be, but no one's really going hard in the paint on the stuff that's truly dividing us. And, you know, there's stuff out there that's truly doing that. And do we want to address that? Is anybody addressing it? You know, that's rather vague, because I'm not certain I want to dig in. I don't think I'm personally ready for that. But this did kind of show us, like, okay, some guy wore a shirt, shouldn't have done it. He's a class clown, no credibility. I never even learned his name. Not going to say it. Not going to give him what he wanted.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a bigger picture here, and it's who knows?
Well, that's what I talk about with Wolfie's World a lot, is like applying talents and skill sets and things that we learn from trail running into our lives to become more successful. And like this seemed like an opportunity for us to do that. Like, we don't get to choose what happens to us, but we definitely get to choose how we respond to it. You know, it's like, this would be the equivalent of like you dropped a gel and you throw a big hissy fit about it, right? Like, just pick it up and move on. You know what I mean? Like you said, like this really probably should have been nothing, but I think the response just got so much momentum that it required us to continue to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. And on that note, here's actually a perfect comment to wind my last comment. I don't know if you have another one, but this will be my last one. This is from user 127053000. That's the name of the user. It says, regarding the women's race shirt issue, can we all just admit that despite what the guy's intentions were, that it was right? That it is necessary to call out behavior like that, right? And necessary to call out behavior like that. What kind of community would we have if we just looked the other way and shrugged our shoulders? And I think this actually kind of points to what you were saying, that this was a little bit of a proxy issue, because this behavior, you know, we have to really define. Can we just admit that despite what this guy's intentions were, it's right to call behavior like that out? We have to define what you mean by like that. Class clown behavior, we can look the other way if it's class clown. If this is bigger than that, then we got to just define what it is. Did this guy do something that, what does it mean to call it out? I see it. I wouldn't have done it. I don't recommend that anybody else do it. I don't find it, funny. I don't find it admirable. I wouldn't ask my boys to look at this shirt and say, look at this funny guy. Like, don't do this. This is not good. Is that calling it out? If it's so, I've just called it out. But the question is what is behavior like that? That is the thing that touches on what I think is most divisive, that no one's getting at, and why this issue was a proxy issue, because I think the behavior like that, that's the bigger issue.
Yeah, totally agree. Like I said earlier, I think like that is when you start projecting other issues that are, in your mind right now, and in your eyes of what you're consuming in culture and society. And, it may be coming from a good intention where you are trying to protect and guard from that oozing into the sport. And so, I mean, I guess, to each its own, but at a certain point, you got to step back and maybe think about, in your response and volume, could you actually be putting more fuel on the fire?
Right.
Are you contributing to the actual toxicity growing further? Right. Like, how do you balance those two?
Yeah. All right. Do you got any final comments?
No, I think that's it. A lot of the other ones were kind of here in the same lane. So The last one, I think, and we don't even have to respond to it, but it was 54 Aussie 54 came in with, we as people should not expect everyone to conform to our individual viewpoints. Unfortunately, the trail community tends to give the vibe at times that all trail runners should believe in a certain way. This to me creates a toxic environment within ultra running. Everyone is unique and different. The variety of people and backgrounds is why I fell in love with ultra running. Regardless of the guy's intent wearing the shirt, we should be respectful and not assume someone's point of view if we do not truly know them. So even when he caveats the end, kind of tying it back to the specific scenario here that we're talking about with the shirt, if you just listen to and read the first part of his paragraph, I think that's a fair critique, an ominous, warning or observation of the sport from somebody who's within the sport, And so, I think his opinion is accurate. We should accept and tolerate, more opinions and views that are within the sport.
Yeah. I mean, I love that in general on the level of giving people the benefit of the doubt, being generous. I mean, here's what I'll say: put yourself in that moment late in a race when you're struggling and you meet somebody. You say whatever distance, 78% of the way into the race, where you feel like I've gone a long way, but I've still got a long ways to go. And 100 miler, you've done 3 marathons, you've got 1 more marathon to go. The reason that the sport is so excited about each other is because so many of us meet in those moments. And in those moments, I don't care about anything other than you. In that moment, thank you for running next to me. I needed you right now. Like, that is the core and the power of this sport. And so, sure, are we guilty sometimes of taking this sport and we're talking about all of these other issues? Well, I think that they're important, but in the end, I think we're this positivity that turns into toxic positivity when we're not running. The positivity comes from this camaraderie that is built within the act of doing this sport together, whether that be a long run together for fun or a hard race late in the race. You meet that person, you don't know their politics, you don't know anything, you don't know their Instagram handle, you don't know anything other than you are with me right now and I needed you. And I think that is the power of this sport that we sometimes lose touch with.
Yeah. I wish that we had the ability to, take a pill in the morning that gave us that tolerance, that open, unending amount of graciousness and gratitude and everything that you feel, like you said, in those late stages of an ultra. Like, again, if we punish and torture ourselves to get into that headspace and get into that emotional state of just grace and gratitude, like we torture ourselves, right? We train hard for it for weeks, right? We pay the money to get into the race and we know what we want out of it. And I think that's the feeling that we actually want the most, or that our body, responds to the most, is that gratitude. And it's like, God, if we could just remember and kind of we're all guilty of it, or we all could do better about it.
100%.
To carry ourselves in life how we do in mile 75 or 80 of an ultra. You said that great, so I don't need to wax on about it. That's the one that we're going to cut a reel on and
totally.
And
that's
share.
what we're all here for. I thought
that's
funny. That's funny. That's exactly what I thought.
Everything. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, everyone who's hung with us to the end, thank you. More comments, more voicemail messages, everything. I loved doing this. I love this because then I know we're talking about something that you all are actually talking about when we pull these comments out. So it's fun for us. So I'm stoked you're all here. Brian, let's do this again. We've got a lot coming up with UTMB and the Mammoth and all sorts of stuff. So I'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.